Some years ago, I posed to myself the question, if we could map out the kinds of minds which we want to cultivate in young people in the future, and this is all of our young people, what are the kinds of minds which would be most important going forward? And I arrived at a list of 5 kinds of minds. They are the disciplined mind, the synthesizing mind, the creating mind, the respectful mind, and the ethical mind. Now, those are all desirable, but I'm going to argue that in education, and my guess is we're going to hear this with respect to other topics here, you can't have it all, and there are in fact tensions between these various kinds of minds. And when we try to set out policy in education, we need to address these tensions and realize that for every thing that we promote, we have to say that there's some other things that we can't promote. It's not possible, in other words, to have it all.
Major problem which mankind has to solve during next 20 years, related especially to emerging market and developing countries, is deficit of fresh water. Unfortunately, it seems to me one of the next wars in the world will be related to control over the fresh water resources. And by the way, we have good positive examples in Africa when people related to Nile River using it jointly.
So what are the problems of humanity to which science can contribute? Well, global health is the catch-all for many of these problems if interpreted in a very general sense. Let me resort to some rapid statistics about global health. Disease, especially in the developing world. Malaria, 1 million deaths annually. Tuberculosis, 1.7 million deaths annually. HIV/AIDS, 2 million deaths annually. I'll remind you that these problems are truly global. In New York City, there are nearly 1,000 cases of tuberculosis each year, a disease that should have been eradicated. The Boeing 747 makes a disease that is in Africa today a disease that is in the USA tomorrow.
It seems to me that the answer is a lot more investment in basic agriculture in the countries that need it most, which are the emerging economies. Russia is a country which is actually getting more involved in this. China, India, a number of the larger emerging economies themselves are playing a greater role in Africa and helping them to increase food production. But the United States is going to have to do more. Western Europe is going to have to do more. A great deal more work is going to have to be done to help these countries to develop new types of fertilizer, new types of seeds, to invest more in expanding agricultural acreage. In many parts of Africa, there's a very limited amount of agricultural acreage because so much of the land is in very poor shape. Water is going to be a critically important issue. In many parts of the world, water is going to be the bigger constraint, far bigger than energy, and we're going to need many more projects to help divert water supplies to agricultural areas so that you can increase agricultural production.
One of the really interesting things, I think, from the point of view of this conference, is that CERN, which is the institution that houses the Large Hadron Collider, is a truly international institution. It's located at the border, it's located near Geneva, border of France and Switzerland, and there are 80 countries involved in working at CERN. And I don't think you find many such productive international, I don't mean to insult any of the international people here, but it's a brilliant example where countries can really come together and collaborate if they have a common purpose, that they really set their mind to it, they decide, and this is something that would probably not have happened from any of those countries individually.
After studying, researching lots of countries, including my own, where I came from, India, but also looking at China, it seems to me that in the end, the greatest, the most powerful instrument of poverty alleviation is rapid growth. if you look at the emerging market economies together, so just 4 of those that we fashionably look at, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. A little known fact is actually that if you look at the 5 years, last 5 years for which we have the data, 2003 to 2007, these economies together in nominal dollars have grown at 20% per year. That compares with the US growth of about 6% per year in the last 5 years, and that you can see that the gap between these 4 economies and the US is coming down very rapidly. Within those 5 years, the share of these 4 economies in the world GDP has gone from 9% to about 13%.
And so China is forging ahead in various countries. Take Angola, where there are oil resources, and the Chinese operate differently from, say, ExxonMobil, which is also an oil company. The Chinese firms say, we will not only develop your mineral resources, your oil resources, we will develop your agriculture, health, education, transportation, your media, your electric power activity. ExxonMobil and British Petroleum don't do that.
Another is nuclear power. I only say you today, from technology point of view, we know what to do. We need to build the fast breeders. We need to produce plutonium economy. But it is meet another problem. And main problem which we face is the problem of non-proliferation, because we need to keep together two goals. One is production of energy. Another is to keep reduce the chance for building much more new nuclear weapons.